string lights still hang in my backyard, 4 months after the engagement party that destroyed everything. They're dead now, half the bulbs blown, the rest covered in bird droppings and dust. Robert never came back to take them down. Why would he? This isn't his house anymore. It was never supposed to be mine alone. I pour myself another glass of the champagne we never opened that night. Cases of it still stacked in the garage, growing flat and worthless like everything else I touch. The invitation sits on the patio table, water-stained and faded, but still readable. Victoria Pemberton and Robert Ashford request the pleasure of your company. 200 guests, 7-piece band, catering from the best restaurant in Charlotte. $65,000 to watch my life implode in front of everyone who mattered. But the money wasn't the real cost. The real cost was Robert's face when James grabbed the microphone and told everyone the truth. I should start from the beginning, back when I still believed I could have everything. Robert and I met at a charity auction 3 years ago. He was bidding on a week in Aspen. I was bidding on the same package just to drive up the price for the charity. When he won, he offered to split the week with me. Smooth, generous, exactly the kind of man my mother had been pushing me toward since college. "He's perfect for you," she gushed after our first date. "Established, successful, from a good family." The Ashfords have been in Charlotte society for generations. And he was perfect, on paper. Investment banker, former lacrosse captain at Duke, the kind of man who opened doors and sent flowers and asked permission from my father before proposing. The 2-carat cushion-cut diamond he presented at the French restaurant overlooking the city was exactly what I'd shown my best friend Michelle months before. "Yes," I said, "because what else do you say when the perfect man offers you the perfect life?" The entire restaurant erupted in applause. A waiter instantly appeared with champagne from a stranger. I posted the ring on Instagram within minutes, watched the likes and comments pour in. "Gorgeous! So happy for you. About time. You two are perfect together. Welcome to the future, Mrs. Ashford." That last one made something twist in my stomach. Mrs. Ashford. Trading my name for his. My identity dissolving into the role of banker's wife. But I pushed the feeling down, focused on wedding planning, on being the glowing bride-to-be everyone expected. The ring was perfect, just like Robert. But perfection is heavy. Every time I looked at it, I felt the weight of expectations. His, mine, our families, society's. This wasn't just a ring, it was a contract, a promise to become someone I wasn't sure I wanted to be. "We should have the wedding at the country club," Robert's mother announced at our first planning lunch. "The Ashfords have always married there." "Always," I repeated, stabbing at my Waldorf salad. "8 generations," she continued proudly. "You'll be the 9th Mrs. Ashford to walk down that aisle." The 9th. Like I was joining a production line of wives, each one molded to fit the Ashford standard. I excused myself to the bathroom and stood gripping the cold marble of the vanity, staring into the mirror, trying to see the future Mrs. Ashford. All I saw was a woman screaming behind her smile. The problem with perfect is that it's boring. Robert was predictable in the best and worst ways. Saturday golf with clients, Sunday dinner with his parents, sex twice a week, missionary position, lights off. He'd kiss my forehead afterward and tell me he loved me, and I'd stare at the ceiling wondering if this was what the next 50 years looked like. "You're so lucky," my married friends would say. "Robert's such a catch, stable, successful, devoted to you. Lucky." That's what I was supposed to feel. Not trapped, not bored, not desperately craving something that made me feel alive. Lucky. James was the opposite of lucky. He was dangerous. We met at a conference in Atlanta. I was there representing my PR firm. He was speaking on a panel about digital marketing trends. Married, I noticed immediately. The gold band, the mentions of "my wife and I" sprinkled throughout his presentation. Safe to flirt with because nothing could happen. Except everything happened. "You look bored," he said, sliding into the seat next to me at the hotel bar after his panel. I'm engaged, I replied, flashing my ring. I didn't ask if you were engaged. I said you look bored. That's presumptuous. But accurate. He smiled, and it wasn't Robert's polite country club smile. It was knowing, challenging, the kind of smile that made you want to prove something. My fiancé is perfect, I said. Perfect, he repeated. How suffocating. I should have walked away. Should have finished my martini and gone back to my room to FaceTime Robert like I'd promised. Instead, I said, And your wife? Is she perfect? God, no. She's difficult and demanding and drives me crazy. He paused. She's also brilliant and passionate and the mother of my children. Marriage isn't about perfect. It's about choosing someone whose imperfections you can live with. How romantic. Romance is for affairs. Marriage is for building a life. The word affairs hung between us like a loaded gun. We both knew what was happening, the dangerous game we were starting. But knowing and stopping are two different things. We talked until the bar closed, about everything. Books, politics, our disappointing childhoods, our fears about the future. He was brilliant, funny, cynical in a way that felt honest after Robert's relentless optimism. When he walked me to my room, I knew he was going to kiss me. I knew I was going to let him. This is a terrible idea, I said against his lips. The worst, he agreed, pressing me against my door. We didn't sleep together that night. Somehow that made it worse. We just talked and kissed until dawn, creating an intimacy that felt more betraying than sex. When I flew home to Charlotte, to Robert and wedding planning and my perfect life, I felt like I was suffocating. The text started immediately. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? My perfect fiancé is taking me to cake tasting, I'd respond, living the dream. Your sarcasm is showing, Victoria. That's what I like about you. The real you, not the version performing happiness. He saw through me in a way Robert never did. Or maybe Robert saw through me too and just chose to believe the performance. Either way, James became my escape valve, the person I texted when wedding planning felt like planning my own funeral. We met in different cities over the next 6 months. Business trips that weren't really business, long weekends I lied about. Each time we promised it would be the last time. Each time we lied. The lies became elaborate productions. A conference in Chicago that I attended for exactly 1 hour before meeting James at the Palmer House. A college friend's wedding in Nashville that didn't exist. A spa weekend in Ashford that was actually a cabin with James, playing house for 72 hours. This is insane, I'd say every time, unpacking lingerie I'd bought specifically for him. Sanity is overrated, he'd reply, pulling me into bed. I became an expert at deception. 2 phones, one for my real life, one for James. Separate credit cards Robert didn't know about. An entire wardrobe kept at the office for my trips. I even created fake email threads with imaginary friends to support my alibis. How was Sarah's wedding? Robert would ask when I returned from Nashville. Beautiful. College friends are all married now. The lie rolled off my tongue while I still felt James's hands on my skin. Leave him, James would say in those hotel rooms, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. This isn't fair to anyone, says the married man in my bed. I'm not pretending to love my wife. We have an understanding. How modern. How honest. Unlike what you're doing to that poor bastard. He was right, but I couldn't leave Robert. The wedding was planned, deposits paid, dress fitted. My parents had invited everyone they knew. Robert's mother had already started introducing me as her daughter-in-law. The machine was in motion, and I was just a cog that needed to show up and smile. But I also couldn't let James go. He was my secret rebellion, my proof that I wasn't completely absorbed into the Charlotte Society wife I was becoming. When I was with him, I felt electric, alive, like myself instead of a role I was playing. The engagement party was my mother's idea. 6 weeks before the wedding, she declared. Give everyone a chance to celebrate you properly. She took over the planning with military precision. The country club was booked solid, so she suggested our backyard. More intimate, more personal. She hired the best of everything, turned our half-acre into a fairyland of lights and flowers and perfectly placed tables. It's going to be magical, she said, surveying the setup the morning of the party. Everyone who matters will be here. Everyone who mattered. Charlotte's society, Robert's banking colleagues, my father's business associates, friends from college who'd already married their own Roberts. My perfect life on display for approval and envy. James texted that morning, "Thinking of you. Wish I could see you in your party dress." I stared at the message, an idea forming that should have horrified me. Instead, it thrilled me. "You could," I typed, "if you were brave enough." Victoria. There will be over 200 people. No one will notice one more. You could see my real life. Meet the man I'm marrying. That's insane. Probably. But when have we ever been sane? I sent him the details before I could think better of it. Black tie, cocktails at 6, dinner at 8, open bar, which would prove to be the most critical detail. I told myself he wouldn't come. James was many things, but he wasn't reckless. Showing up at my engagement party, in my world, surrounded by people who could destroy his career if they knew. He'd never risk it. But I underestimated how much he hated the idea of losing me to Robert permanently. Or maybe I knew exactly what I was doing, lighting a fuse and waiting for the explosion. The party was everything my mother promised. I wore a white cocktail dress that cost more than most people's rent, smiled for the photographer, accepted congratulations and air kisses from people I barely knew. Robert was in his element, working the crowd, one hand always on my back like I might float away. "You look beautiful," he whispered during a brief moment alone. "I can't wait to marry you." 6 more weeks, I replied, scanning the crowd for a face that didn't belong. James arrived at 7, just as the sun was setting and the string lights were coming on. He looked devastating in his tux, different from the business casual I was used to. When our eyes met across the lawn, that familiar electricity shot through me. I watched him work the crowd, charming his way through conversations, blending in perfectly. He was good at this, I realized, good at being whoever he needed to be, just like me. "Who's that?" Robert asked, following my gaze. "I don't know, probably someone's +1, but I was already moving toward James, drawn like a magnet. Robert got pulled into a conversation with his boss, giving me the opening I needed. "You came," I said, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter to have something to do with my hands. "You knew I would." His eyes traveled over my dress, possessive and hungry. "You look like a bride-to-be?" "Like mine." "James." "I know, I'm being good, aren't I? Playing the random guest, admiring your house, your party, your life." His voice turned bitter. "Your fiancé seems nice. Boring as white bread, but nice." "Don't." "Don't what?" "Tell the truth? That's all we've ever done, Victoria. Tell each other the truth." Someone called my name. Time for the toast. I left James by the bar, returning to Robert's side, playing my part. My father spoke about finding the right partner. Robert's father welcomed me to the family. Robert himself talked about the moment he knew I was the one, how these 6 weeks couldn't pass fast enough. I smiled and dabbed at my eyes at the right moments, the picture of a touched bride. But I could feel James watching from the crowd, his presence like a live wire sparking against my skin. The drinking started in earnest after dinner. James was at the bar constantly, tossing back scotch like water. I tried to catch his eye, to warn him, but he was avoiding me now, talking to my cousin Patricia, laughing too loud at her jokes. "Your friend seems to be enjoying himself," Robert commented, appearing at my elbow. "He's not my friend." "No? He keeps staring at you." "A lot of people are staring." "It's our party." Robert frowned but got pulled away again by his groomsmen wanting photos. I used the distraction to corner James by the garden. You need to leave. Already? But I haven't given my toast yet. His words were starting to slur. James, please. You've had too much. I've had exactly enough. Enough of watching him touch you. Enough of pretending this is okay. He grabbed my wrist, not hard, but desperately. Don't marry him, Victoria. Let go. You don't love him. You love me. You're married. So what? I'll leave her, tonight. Right now, just say the word. You're drunk. In vino veritas, right? Isn't that what you pretentious Charlotte people say? He pulled me closer. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me you can honestly marry him feeling what you feel for me. Victoria? We sprang apart. Robert stood 3 feet away, his face a study in dawning comprehension. Behind him, a small crowd had gathered, drawn by raised voices. I saw my mother's horrified face, my father frozen with a drink halfway to his lips, Robert's sister reaching for her phone to record. Robert, this is... I know who he is. Robert's voice was deadly quiet. James Morrison. I looked him up after you got back from Atlanta. When you started acting different, I told myself I was being paranoid. My blood turned to ice. He'd known. Some part of him had known all along. You checked up on me? I trusted you. But you came back different, distant. You stopped letting me touch you without flinching. His voice cracked. I knew, Victoria. I just loved you too much to admit it. Robert dash. But James, drunk and reckless, stepped forward. You're right. You should be paranoid. Your fiancé and I have been... Shut up! I turned on James, desperate. Just shut up and leave? Leave? But the party's just getting interesting. He grabbed a champagne flute from a nearby table, raised it high. I'd like to make a toast. No, but it was too late. He was already climbing onto a chair, tapping the glass with a ring. The party fell silent, everyone turning to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, James swayed slightly. I want to toast the happy couple. To Robert, who's marrying the most passionate, complicated, incredible woman I've ever met. And to Victoria, who... Stop. Robert's voice cut through like a blade. Everyone needs to leave, now. But James wasn't done. To Victoria, who spent the last 6 months in my bed, telling me she was suffocating in this perfect life. Who said she'd rather die than become another Charlotte society wife. Who dash. Robert punched him. One clean hit that sent James tumbling off the chair and into the dessert table. Cakes and tarts flew everywhere. Women screamed. Men rushed forward to separate them, though James made no move to get up. Is it true? Robert stood over James, fists clenched. Then he turned to me, and the look on his face made me want to disappear. Victoria, is it true? 200 people waited for my answer. My parents, his parents, everyone who mattered in Charlotte society, all holding their breath for my response. I could have lied, could have claimed James was delusional, a stalker, anything but what he was. Robert might have believed me. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his eyes. Instead, I said, yes. The word dropped like a bomb. The silence shattered into chaos. Gasps, shouts, my mother's wail of despair. Robert stared at me like he'd never seen me before. 6 months? Robert dash. 6 months, while we planned our wedding, His voice broke. While I defended you to my sister. She said you seemed different, distracted. I told her it was just wedding stress. His sister Catherine stepped forward, her face a mask of vindication. I told you, Robert. I told you she wasn't... Not now, Kate. But Robert's eyes never left mine. Was anything real? Any moment in the last 6 months? I wanted to lie, to salvage something. But surrounded by the wreckage of my deception, I couldn't find any truth worth saving. I don't know. You don't know, he laughed, a broken sound. I was going to spend my life with you, and you don't know if anything was real. Get out. This is my house. That I pay for. Get out! My mother finally found her voice. Victoria Ann Pemberton, what have you done? What I always do, Mother. Exactly what I want. The words came out cruel and flippant, but they were the truest thing I'd said all night. I'd done exactly what I wanted. Consequences be damned. And now the consequences were here, playing out in front of Charlotte's elite. He walked away, pushing through the crowd. I tried to follow, but my father caught my arm. Let him go, he said, his face aged 10 years and 10 seconds. You've done enough. The party emptied in minutes. People fled like the house was on fire, desperate to distance themselves from the scandal. My mother wouldn't look at me. Robert's parents left without a word. Soon it was just me, the catering staff cleaning up the destroyed dessert table, and James still on the ground, blood trickling from his nose. You happy now? I asked, standing over him. He looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked small. Victoria, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... Get out. Let me help. Get out! He stumbled to his feet and left without another word. I never saw him again. The fallout was swift and complete. Robert called off the wedding that night via text. I'll send someone for my things. Don't contact me again. My parents left for their house in Hilton Head, needing distance to process. The story spread through Charlotte like wildfire, each telling more embellished than the last. The local society blog picked it up first. Ashford Pemberton engagement implodes in spectacular fashion. Someone had filmed the whole thing, and the video made rounds through every social circle that mattered. You could hear my mother's wail clear as day, see Robert's fist connect with James's jaw, watch me stand there in my white dress like a deer in headlights. By Monday, I was radioactive. Clients pulled their accounts from my PR firm. Friends stopped returning calls. The country club quietly suggested I might be happier elsewhere. Even my hairdresser canceled my appointment, claiming to be overbooked. The partners at my firm called an emergency meeting. Harold Pemberton, no relation, despite the name, didn't mince words. You've become a liability, Victoria. Our clients don't want to be associated with this kind of scandal. My personal life has nothing to do with my work. Your personal life is all over social media. The Fairmont Hotel is threatening to pull their account. They don't want their brand associated with adultery. That's ridiculous. Clean out your office. We'll mail your final check. 20 years building my career, destroyed in one night. I sat in my car in the parking garage, watching my former colleagues pretend not to see me, and laughed until I cried. Or maybe cried until I laughed. The distinction didn't matter anymore. James texted once, 2 days later. I'm in counseling with Melissa. We're working things out. I'm sorry for everything. Please don't contact me again. So his wife took him back. Of course she did. She had an understanding about his affairs after all. And I was just another affair, memorable only for the spectacular way I'd let him destroy my life. Robert never spoke to me again. I heard through mutual friends that he transferred to his company's London office. His mother sent a bill for half the wedding expenses, which my father paid without telling me. The engagement ring I tried to return came back with a note. Sell it. I don't want it in the same country as me. I sold it. Used the money to pay rent on an apartment across town where no one knew me. But Charlotte's a small city when you've made yourself infamous. I'd see people from the party at restaurants, stores, gas stations. They'd whisper, point, sometimes take photos like I was a zoo animal. 3 months later, I drove past Robert's parents' house and saw a sold sign. They were leaving Charlotte, too. I'd driven them from their family home, all because I wanted to feel alive. Now, I sit in this backyard that was supposed to host garden parties and children's birthdays and anniversary celebrations. The string lights mock me with their deadness. The grass is overgrown where the dance floor was. The only parties here now are pity parties for one. I kept one of the invitations from that night. Sometimes I trace our names, Victoria Pemberton and Robert Ashford, and try to remember what it felt like to be her. The woman who had everything and threw it away for the thrill of almost getting caught, until I made sure I did get caught in the most devastating way possible. Behind the invitation is a photo from that night, before everything fell apart. Robert and I stand beneath the string lights, his arm around my waist, both of us glowing with champagne and fairy tale lighting. We look perfect, we look happy, we look like liars. Because even then, with James somewhere in the crowd and disaster minutes away, I was calculating, wondering if he'd actually come, hoping he would, wanting the collision, the explosion, the spectacular end to the suffocating perfection of my life. My therapist says I have self-destructive tendencies rooted in fears of inadequacy, that I created drama because I didn't believe I deserved the life Robert offered. Maybe she's right. Or maybe I'm just selfish and cruel, someone who values excitement over everything else, including the man who loved me. "You wanted to be caught," she said during our last session. "Inviting James wasn't about seeing him. It was about ensuring destruction. That's not..." "Victoria, you sent a drunk, jealous man into a room with your fiancé. What did you think would happen?" "What did I think would happen? Exactly what did happen?" The truth is, I orchestrated my own downfall with the precision of a conductor leading a symphony, every note perfectly placed, building to the crescendo of James's drunken toast and Robert's devastating punch. I got exactly what I wanted. Freedom from a life that felt like a beautiful prison. I just didn't consider what that freedom would cost. James was wrong about one thing. Romance isn't for affairs. It's for people brave enough to build something real with another person. Affairs are for cowards who want all the intensity with none of the commitment. I was the biggest coward of all, destroying something real for something that was never more than mutual destruction disguised as passion. The champagne is flat and warm, but I drink it anyway. $65,000 for one party, 200 guests, 7-piece band, and one drunk lover who told the truth I'd been too cowardly to tell myself. I thought I was suffocating in my perfect life. Turns out I was just holding my breath, waiting to set everything on fire. Now I sit in the ashes, finally able to breathe, with nothing left to fill my lungs but smoke and regret. The string lights sway in the evening breeze, casting shadows that look like dancing couples. If I close my eyes, I can almost hear the band, the laughter, the sound of my life falling apart in 3/4 time. But when I open them, it's just me and the dead lights and the knowledge that some mistakes can't be fixed, only lived with. Robert's building a new life in London. James is in counseling with his wife. And I'm here in Charlotte, the cautionary tale whispered at parties I'll never be invited to again. The woman who had everything and destroyed it for a thrill that lasted exactly as long as it took for the champagne bubbles to burst. They say you can't have your cake and eat it too, but I didn't even want the cake. I just wanted to throw it at the wall and watch it splatter, and now I'm exactly where I deserve to be, surrounded by the mess I made, with no one left to help me clean it up. The lights flicker once, a dying bulb's last gasp, then go dark forever. I should take them down, but I won't. They're a reminder, a gravestone for the life I killed, and every night I sit beneath them and drink flat champagne, and remember what it felt like to have everything, right before I destroyed it all.